house. You are barren and can't bear a child. You have no use to my son. We have been more than generous, dear. You didn't even deserve it.
The rain fell like a judgment over Atlanta's Buckhead district, turning the manicured lawns into mirrors that reflected nothing but gray. Maya Rodriguez stood on the marble steps of the Sterling mansion, her single suitcase growing heavy in her trembling hands. Behind her, the door had already closed, not slammed, because the Sterlings never did anything so undignified as slam doors. They simply shut them, quietly and firmly, the way one might close a chapter in a book they'd grown tired of reading. 8 years.
8 years of my life had just been dismissed with the quiet click of a lock.
Don't make a scene, dear. Victoria Sterling's voice still echoed in Maya's ears, crisp and cold as winter frost. The car will take you to a hotel. We've been more than generous with the settlement. You'll sign the papers by Monday. Maya had stood there in the foyer, the same foyer where she'd stood as a nervous bride 8 years ago, and watched her husband say nothing. Derek had stared at his phone, scrolling through emails or stock prices or whatever was more important than defending the woman he'd promised to love and cherish. Thunder cracked overhead, jolting Maya from her paralysis. She walked toward the car, each step feeling like she was sinking deeper into quicksand. The driver remained motionless as she struggled to lift her suitcase into the trunk. Of course he did. She was already gone in everyone's eyes, already erased. She slid into the back seat, and the car pulled away from the only home she'd known in America. Through the rain-streaked window, she watched the mansion recede. Lights glowed in the windows where the Sterling family was probably already celebrating their freedom from the inadequate foreigner who'd failed her only purpose. "Where to, ma'am?" the driver asked, his voice carefully neutral. Maya realized she had nowhere to go. No family in Atlanta, no friends. Victoria had made sure of that, subtly discouraging Maya from maintaining connections with anyone who wasn't suitable. No job, no career, no purpose. The Ritz-Carlton downtown, she heard herself say, because it was the first hotel name that came to mind. As they drove through the wet streets, Maya pulled out her phone again. She had $847 in her personal checking account. The settlement Victoria mentioned would take weeks to process, and knowing the Sterlings, it would be tied up in paperwork and contingencies designed to make her grateful for whatever scraps they decided to toss her way. She opened her email and saw dozens of unread messages, professional mailing lists she'd never unsubscribed from, alumni newsletters from Sao Paulo University, industry updates about sustainable architecture and urban development, the field she'd once loved with such passion it had felt like breathing. One email caught her eye. It was from the Sao Paulo Architecture Association, announcing the winner of this year's Innovation Award. The winning project was a mixed-use development that provided affordable housing while revitalizing a historic neighborhood. The kind of project Maya used to dream about. The kind of project Maya could have designed in another life. She closed her email before the grief could fully hit. There was no point in looking backward. That Maya, the confident, talented woman with a portfolio and ambitions, was gone. This Maya, the one shivering in the back of a car with a suitcase and $847 to her name, would have to figure out how to survive. The hotel lobby was warm and bright, a stark contrast to the storm outside. The receptionist smiled professionally as Maya approached. "I'd like a room, please." "Of course, ma'am. How many nights?" Maya's mind went blank. How many nights? How long did it take to rebuild a life? "Just one, for now." She handed over her credit card, still in her married name, Mrs. Derek Sterling, and wondered how long before that too would be taken from her. The room was generic but clean, the kind of space designed to be forgotten the moment you left it. Maya set her suitcase on the luggage rack and caught sight of herself in the mirror. When had she started looking so small? She used to stand tall, shoulders back, confident in her skin. Now she hunched, as if trying to take up less space in the world. She sat on the edge of the bed and finally let herself cry. Not delicate tears, but great, gasping sobs that shook her entire body. She cried for the 8 years she'd lost, for the career she'd abandoned, for the children she desperately wanted but couldn't have, for the love she'd believed in that had turned out to be conditional. She cried until she had nothing left, until she was hollow and empty, and somehow that felt better than being full of false hope. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Derek. Please don't make this difficult. Sign the papers. Move on with your life. Move on. As if she could simply step into a new existence. As if the past 8 years could be shrugged off like an ill-fitting coat. Maya turned off her phone and lay back on the hotel bed, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere in this city, Derek and Victoria were sleeping soundly, probably relieved that the problem had been handled. Tomorrow, Derek would go to his office at Sterling Properties. Victoria would have brunch with her society friends. Life would continue exactly as it always had for them. But for Maya, everything had ended. Or so she thought. The next morning arrived with painful brightness. Maya woke disoriented, forgetting for a blissful moment where she was and why. Then reality crashed back, and with it, the crushing weight of decisions that needed to be made. She couldn't afford the Ritz-Carlton for more than a few days. She needed to find an apartment, but without a job, no one would rent to her. She needed a job, but her resume had an 8-year gap. She needed... Her phone rang, an unknown Atlanta number. Hello? Mrs. Sterling? This is Sarah Chen from Morrison & Associates. We're the law firm handling your divorce proceedings. I'm calling to schedule an appointment to review the settlement offer. Settlement offer. That made it sound generous, like the Sterlings were giving her something rather than taking everything. Yes, when? Would this afternoon work? Say 2 o'clock? Maya agreed and hung up. She had 4 hours to pull herself together enough to face lawyers and legal documents that would formally dissolve her marriage. 4 hours to become someone who could function in the world again. She showered, letting the hot water scald away the numbness. She dressed in one of the few outfits she'd managed to grab, a simple black dress that Victoria had once called too professional for a wife. She put on makeup to hide the evidence of last night's crying. She looked in the mirror and saw a stranger who was learning to wear her own face again. At 1:30, Maya left the hotel and started walking toward the law firm's office. It was only 6 blocks, and despite the grey sky threatening more rain, she needed the air, needed to move. She'd made it 3 blocks when she realized someone was following her. Not obviously, not threateningly, but she'd caught glimpses of the same man in the suit. Tall, mid-30s, moving with purpose, staying exactly 1 storefront behind her for the past 2 blocks. Maya's heart raced. She ducked into a coffee shop, watching through the window. The man passed by, glancing at his phone, and continued walking. Maya exhaled, feeling foolish. She was paranoid, jumping at shadows. She ordered a coffee she couldn't afford and sat by the window, trying to calm her nerves before the appointment. The barista brought her drink with a gentle smile that suggested she could see Maya was barely holding it together. Rough day? Maya laughed, a brittle sound. Rough year. Well, coffee helps, at least temporarily. Maya was halfway through her coffee when someone sat down across from her without asking. She looked up, startled, to find a man in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit, studying her with dark, intelligent eyes. Maya Rodriguez,
Rivers.
He said. Not a question, a statement.
I'm sorry.
Do I know you? No, but I know you. He slid a business card across the table. Silas Monroe, Monroe Development. Maya stared at the card. Monroe Development was one of the biggest real estate development companies in Atlanta, and Sterling Properties' main competitor. I don't understand. I know you graduated top of your class from Sao Paulo University. I know you designed the Rio Verde housing complex that won the Southern Brazil Sustainability Award. I know you specialized in affordable housing and urban revitalization. He paused. And I know that 8 years ago, you married Derek Sterling, and stopped working. Maya's hands tightened around her coffee cup. Are you following me? I've been aware of you for some time, yes. The Sterlings and I have a complicated history. Look, I don't know what you want, but I want to offer you a job. Maya blinked. What? I'm developing a major project called Riverside Restoration. 200 units of mixed-income housing in a historic downtown neighborhood. It's exactly the kind of work you used to do. I need a lead architect who understands both the technical requirements and the social impact. He leaned forward. I need someone brilliant, and I need someone who has personal reasons to want to prove the Sterlings wrong. This is insane. You don't even know me. I know your work. I've read every article you published before you stopped. I tracked down people you worked with in Brazil. They all said you were the best they'd ever seen. His expression hardened. And I know the Sterlings just threw you out for failing to be a perfect incubator for their genetic legacy. That kind of cruelty tells me everything I need to know about your character. You survived 8 years with them and still have light in your eyes. Maya wanted to argue that there was no light in her eyes, that she was a hollowed-out shell of who she'd been. But something in his words sparked something deep inside her, something she'd thought was dead. Why? She asked quietly. Why me? Why now? Silas sat back, his expression unreadable. Because the Sterlings have been destroying people for decades, and I'm tired of watching it happen. Because I have a project that could genuinely change lives, and I want it done right. And because, he paused, because I think we can help each other. I'm meeting with my divorce lawyer in 20 minutes. I know, which is why I'm making my pitch now. He pulled out another card, this one with an address. This is where I'll be tomorrow morning at 9. If you're interested in reclaiming your life, show up. If not, I'll understand. But Maya, ask yourself, do you want to sign those papers and slink away quietly, letting the Sterlings write your story? Or do you want to remind them, and yourself, who you really are? He stood, buttoned his suit jacket, and walked out of the coffee shop. Maya sat frozen, staring at the 2 business cards in front of her. This had to be some kind of trick, some scheme. Men like Silas Monroe didn't just offer dream jobs to strangers in coffee shops. But then again, she'd already lost everything. What did she have left to lose? Maya showed up at the address Silas had given her at exactly 9 o'clock the next morning. It was a converted warehouse in the Arts District, the kind of space that screamed creative ambition and serious money. Silas was waiting for her in a sun-filled conference room, architectural plans spread across a massive table. You came, he said, and there was genuine warmth in his smile. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what you said. Which part? All of it, but mostly reclaiming my life. Maya set down her bag, then looked at the plans. Her breath caught. They were good, really good. Mixed-use spaces, green roofs, communal areas designed to foster connection. But there were flaws, places where the design didn't quite achieve what it was reaching for. These are yours? She asked. My team's initial concepts. What do you think? Maya reached for a pencil, and before she knew it, she was sketching corrections in the margins. This loading zone creates a barrier between the community space and the street. If you rotated it here and added a pedestrian passage, you get better flow. And these upper units, the windows are too small. Natural light is crucial for affordable housing. People need to feel like their homes are sanctuaries, not just boxes to sleep in. She looked up to find Silas watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What? She asked, suddenly self-conscious. You're exactly what this project needs. He pulled out a contract. Full salary, benefits, you need a job and a fresh start. I need an architect and a wife. We both have reasons to want the Sterlings taken down a few notches. And trust me, nothing will irritate them more than seeing you thriving with their biggest competitor. Maya thought about the divorce papers waiting in her hotel room, about the settlement offer that was probably insulting, about Derek's text telling her to move on with her life. What about when the project is done? We quietly divorce. No drama, just a mutual parting. You'll have rebuilt your career and your reputation. I'll have my development approved and completed. He slid a pen across the table. It's a business arrangement, Maya. Nothing more, nothing less. She picked up the pen, and for the first time in 8 years, she made a decision that was entirely her own. Strictly business, she said. Strictly business, he agreed. They shook hands, and Maya signed her name. Her real name, Maya Rodriguez, not Mrs. Derek Sterling, on the contract. The next 6 weeks passed in a blur of activity that Maya had forgotten was possible. She dove into the Riverside Restoration Project with a fervor that surprised even herself, spending 12-hour days refining plans, meeting with community groups, coordinating with contractors. Silas gave her everything she'd asked for: complete creative freedom, a budget that actually reflected the project's ambitions, and genuine respect for her expertise. They worked together smoothly, their skills complementing each other. He understood the business and political side. She understood the human element, how to create spaces that felt like home. Living in his Druid Hills estate was surreal. The house was beautiful but not ostentatious, filled with books and art and signs of actual life rather than the sterile perfection of the Sterling mansion. Silas kept his promise about separate spaces. Maya had an entire wing to herself, including a massive studio where she could work on designs. They fell into a routine. Coffee together in the mornings, discussing the day's priorities. Dinners when their schedules aligned, talking about architecture and urban planning, and everything except their fake marriage. It felt comfortable, safe. Maya started to remember who she'd been before the Sterlings, started to laugh again, started to feel like her own body belonged to her, rather than being a vessel that had failed its purpose. Then came the invitation to the Heritage Foundation Gala. The Sterlings will be there, Silas said casually over breakfast. It's the biggest social event of the season. Maya's coffee suddenly tasted bitter. I don't think I'm ready. Maya. Silas set down his tablet and looked at her directly. You've spent 6 weeks rebuilding yourself. You've created something extraordinary with this project. You're not the woman Derek threw away. You're the woman who's going to change this city's skyline. He smiled. Let them see who you really are. Maya wanted to argue, to hide, to avoid the confrontation. But another part of her, the part that had been growing stronger every day, wanted to walk into that gala with her head held high. Okay, she whispered. Okay. The night of the gala, Maya stood in front of her mirror and barely recognized herself. The dress she'd chosen was deep emerald green, elegant and powerful. Her hair was swept up, her makeup subtle but striking. She looked like the architect she'd always been meant to be. Silas appeared in her doorway, stunning in a tuxedo. You look incredible. I'm terrified. Good, use it. Fear means you're about to do something important. The gala was held at the Atlanta History Center, all soaring ceilings and glittering chandeliers. As they entered, Maya felt every eye turn toward them. Whispers rippled through the crowd. And there, near the bar, stood Derek and Victoria Sterling. Victoria saw her first. Maya watched the color drain from her former mother-in-law's face, watched shock give way to fury, give way to something that looked almost like fear. Derek turned, following his mother's gaze, and froze. Ready? Silas murmured, his hand warm on her back. Maya lifted her chin. Ready. They walked across the ballroom like they owned it, because in that moment, they did. Victoria recovered first, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Maya, what a surprise. Mrs. Sterling? Maya's voice was steady, clear. I don't believe you've met my husband, Silas Monroe. The word husband hit like a physical blow. Victoria's fake smile cracked. Monroe Development, Derek said, and there was an edge to his voice. You're working with our competitor? I'm leading the Riverside Restoration Project, Maya corrected, as the principal architect. Perhaps you've read about it in the trades? She had the satisfaction of watching Derek's jaw clench. Of course he'd read about it. Monroe Development had been getting glowing press for weeks about their innovative approach to affordable housing. How nice for you, Victoria said, venom dripping from every word. Playing at architecture again, though I'm sure that will end once I what? Maya's voice was quiet but sharp as a blade. Once I failed to produce an heir for my husband? Silas isn't interested in using me as an incubator, Victoria. He values me for my mind, my talent, my work. Imagine that. The crowd around them had gone quiet, everyone pretending not to listen while hanging on every word. Silas stepped closer to Maya, a subtle gesture of unity. The Riverside project is going to change downtown Atlanta. Maya's designs are brilliant, sustainable, beautiful, and socially conscious. She's going to win awards for this work. He smiled at Victoria. But I'm sure Sterling Properties has similar projects in development. The dig landed. Everyone knew Sterling Properties focused exclusively on luxury developments, caring nothing for social impact or sustainability. Victoria's face flushed red. Derek, we should... Actually, Maya interrupted. Before you go, you should know that next week the City Council is reviewing some concerns about Sterling Properties' Midtown Tower development. Something about structural reports that were filed incorrectly? She tilted her head innocently. I'm sure it's just a paperwork error. Though, with the city cracking down on building code violations, it might be worth your attention. She watched the realization dawn on Victoria's face, that Maya wasn't helpless anymore, that she had connections, power, knowledge, that she could fight back. Excuse us, Victoria said stiffly, grabbing Derek's arm and practically dragging him away. As they disappeared into the crowd, Maya felt her knees go weak. Silas caught her elbow. Breathe, he said softly. I can't believe You were perfect. Absolutely perfect. He guided her toward a quieter corner, away from the staring crowd. Are you okay? Maya laughed, a little wildly. I'm not sure. I feel like I'm going to throw up or faint or possibly combust. That's adrenaline. It'll pass. He signaled a waiter, procured 2 glasses of champagne. Here, sip slowly. They stood together in the alcove, and Maya realized her hands were shaking. I spent 8 years being afraid of them, of Victoria's judgment, of Derek's disappointment. And just now, for the first time, I wasn't afraid. Because you remember who you are, Silas said simply. They can't take that from you anymore. The rest of the evening passed in a daze. People approached them, real people, important people, wanting to know about the Riverside project, wanting Maya's card, talking to her like she mattered, like she was someone worth knowing. By the time they left, Maya's face hurt from smiling. In the car on the way home, she turned to Silas. Thank you, for tonight, for everything. You did that yourself, Maya. I just gave you a platform. Still, I wouldn't have had the courage without... She stopped, realizing what she'd been about to say. Without you. Without this strange business arrangement that had started to feel like something more. Silas was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Maya. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it and sighed. I have to take this. London office. The moment broke, and Maya told herself she was relieved. This was business. Just business. Except it was starting to feel like much more than that. 3 months after the gala, Maya woke up feeling strange. Not sick exactly, but off. She'd been tired lately, working long hours on the project, but this was different. She ignored it for a week. Then 2. But when she nearly fainted while presenting to the zoning board, Silas insisted she see a doctor. It's probably just stress, she argued. It's probably something simple that needs treating. Humor me. I already made you an appointment for tomorrow. The doctor was kind and thorough. She ran tests, asked questions, and then left Maya alone in the exam room for 20 minutes that felt like 20 years. When she came back, she was smiling. Well, Maya, your fatigue has a very specific cause. You're pregnant, about 8 weeks along. The room spun. That's not possible. I I've been trying for years, and sometimes severe stress can impact fertility, the doctor explained gently. Your body was in survival mode for a long time. Now that you're in a healthier environment, calmer, more stable, it's not uncommon for fertility to return. Maya couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The doctor kept talking about prenatal vitamins and appointment schedules, but Maya heard none of it. She was pregnant. After 8 years of trying, of failure, of being told she was broken, she was pregnant with Silas's child. Silas, who had married her as a business arrangement. Silas, who had promised this was temporary. Silas, who would now be tied to her forever because of this tiny cluster of cells growing inside her. Maya drove home in a daze. Silas was waiting in the living room, clearly worried. What did the doctor say? Maya sat down heavily. I'm pregnant. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Maya, I know what you're thinking. This wasn't part of the deal. This changes everything, and I don't expect anything from you. We can still divorce when the project is done. I'll handle this on my own. Her voice cracked. I can't believe this is happening. Maya, stop. Silas knelt in front of her, taking her hands. Listen to me. Are you happy about this? The question surprised her. Was she happy? After everything with the Sterlings, after being told she was broken, after years of disappointment. Was she happy? Yes, she whispered. God help me, yes. I never thought I'd get this chance. Then I'm happy too. Maya looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something in his eyes that made her heart stutter. Silas, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. But Maya, these past few months, working with you, living with you, watching you become yourself again, I haven't been pretending. I thought I could keep this purely business, but I can't. I care about you. Deeply. This is just the shock talking. No. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you for weeks. I was terrified you'd leave once the project was done. I was trying to come up with reasons to extend our arrangement. He laughed softly. Turns out I don't need to. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. I'm so scared. What if I'm not ready? What if I fail again? You didn't fail before. You were in an impossible situation with people who set you up to fail. He wiped her tears with his thumb. And you won't be alone. If you want this, not just the baby, but us, then we do it together, for real. Strictly personal? She asked, echoing their old joke. Strictly personal, he confirmed. And then he kissed her, and Maya felt something inside her that had been frozen for 8 years finally begin to thaw. 2 years later, Maya stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Riverside Restoration Project. The morning sun gleamed off the new buildings, beautiful, sustainable, home to 200 families who'd finally found affordable housing in the city they loved. Her daughter Grace, 15 months old, squirmed in Silas's arms, reaching for the bright ribbon. Not yet, little one, Silas murmured, kissing the top of her dark curls. Maya stepped up to the microphone, looking out at the crowd. She saw community members, city officials, the press, and in the back, barely visible, she saw Derek Sterling. He'd shown up alone. Victoria had been notably absent from public events lately, her social standing destroyed by the building code scandal. Derek caught her eye and nodded, a gesture of what might have been respect or regret. Maya nodded back. She'd stopped being angry months ago. The Sterlings had done her a favor, really, even if they hadn't meant to. They'd forced her to find herself again. 2 years ago, Maya began, I didn't believe in second chances. I thought when something ended, it was truly over. But this project taught me that endings can be beginnings, that broken things can be rebuilt into something stronger. She looked at Silas and Grace, that broken people can heal each other. The ribbon fell away and the crowd cheered. Families began moving into their new homes, children running through the courtyards Maya had designed for exactly that purpose. After the ceremony, Derek approached carefully. Maya, congratulations. This project it's incredible. Thank you. I wanted to apologize for everything, for not standing up for you, for letting my mother... He stopped. You deserved better. Yes, Maya said simply. I did. For what it's worth, I'm glad you found it. He glanced at Silas and Grace. You look happy. I am. Genuinely, completely happy. She paused. I hope you find that too, Derek. He smiled sadly. I don't think I knew what I had until it was gone. But that's on me. He extended his hand. Good luck, Maya. With everything. She shook it, feeling the final thread of connection to her old life snap cleanly. Derek walked away, and Maya felt nothing but peace. Silas appeared at her elbow, Grace reaching for her mama. Maya took her daughter, breathing in that perfect baby smell. You okay? Silas asked. Better than okay. She looked at her family, her project, her life. I was thinking, there's a vacant lot in East Atlanta that would be perfect for a similar development. Mixed income housing, community spaces, maybe a small business incubator? Silas laughed. You just finished one massive project and you're already planning the next? I have 8 years to make up for. She stood on her toes and kissed him. Think Monroe Development is up for it? With you as the architect? Always. Grace grabbed a fistful of Maya's hair, and both parents laughed. In the distance, the riverside buildings gleamed in the sun, solid and beautiful and built to last. Maya had spent years being told she wasn't enough, that she was broken, that she had failed. But standing here, with her daughter in her arms and her husband by her side, looking at the buildings she'd designed and the lives she'd changed, Maya finally understood the truth. She had never been broken. She'd just been planted in the wrong soil. And now, finally, she was blooming.